Okay, so in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at creating the debris that breaks off from the resource as it's being harvested. Now, just to be clear, we're not actually going to show the object breaking down. What we're going to do is we're just going to spawn um, an object such as a cube or a circle or an orb, rather, and have it shoot off towards the player. So let's do that now. So let's go to Game Object, 3D Object, Cube, and we're going to add Physics, Rigid Body, because we're going to need it to move in addition to rotate. And what we're going to do is we want the individual resource to be aware of that component that is breaking off. So let's go to the gem. What we're going to do is we're going to use that deplete script. So it's already open. We already have the section that says what to do when a collision is occurring, so we just need to build on that. So first, actually let's zoom in a little bit. So first, let's make the gem object aware, so to speak, of the component. So public transform, and we'll call this debris obj because it's the debris object. We'll save that. There we go. So now we take the cube, we're going to drop it down here and turn it into a prefab, delete the one from the scene, and now take that cube and bring it over here. So now the gem object is aware of that debris cube, and so what's going to happen is when a collision is occurring between the drill, or the harvester rather, and the resource, you're going to have the cube shooting out towards the player. So how do we do that? Well, the cube needs to have a script. So create C#, we'll call this debris control. Click on the cube, give the script, and then we'll open that up. And when it gets instantiated, we want it to do a few things. So we want it to move towards the player. So we want, and that reminds me, sorry for interruption, we don't want to use gravity on the cube. So get component, rigid body, velocity equals new vector 3. It's not going to move horizontally, so 0 horizontal movement. It's not going to move vertically either, so we'll have that also be 0. It's just going to move along the z-axis. Now, the only problem with this is in a full game where you can actually rotate and turn around, then the axis that it's moving on could indeed change. So keep in mind that this is working because your character is facing in a single direction. It would have to be modified accordingly. And since it's moving towards the camera, and the camera is in a negative position versus the object, then it would have to move in a negative direction. So let's have that move -5. Now, final bit. We need the resource that is being depleted. We need, as we said in the trigger detection area, the collision detection area, to spawn the debris object, the cube. So, instantiate. Now we'll just do one, and then we'll come up with a routine to do multiple. So instantiate, we're instantiating the debris object. where we're going to instantiate it, transform dot position. So that stores the 3 vectors a, y, and z of the object the script is attached to, which is the gem. In other words, by saying this, then it's automatically taking the gem's coordinates and dropping them in here because the gem is what the script is attached to. So what's being instantiated, where it's being instantiated, and the object's rotation. That too is going to change when we're done. All right. So what should happen is actually this is gonna repeatedly. I was thinking this was going to create just one, but since this is the stay section, this is going to spam this like crazy. But that's okay. We can always put a delay in there. So let's run this. And there we go. So, a couple things. One, let's turn the debris object into a trigger. That way it's not colliding with anything. 2, we need a pause. So let's see, public string, because we're just going to use yes or no. Public string, and we'll call this debris delay, and we'll set it to no. In other words, at first there is not a debris delay. Here, before we instantiate the object, we will first see if debris delay equals no. If it does, then go ahead and instantiate. So now it will only instantiate 1 after we do this. Debris delay equals yes. So now what happens is a collision is detected. Is debris delay set to no? It starts off as no, so go ahead and instantiate, but then this is set to yes, making this no longer true. So even though the collision occurs, this is no longer true and no more instantiation occurs. So that means what we now do is we create a delay, and at the end of the delay, this gets set back to no. But we have to do one thing first. We have to create the routine that does that before we can refer out to it. So IE numerator, and we'll call this reset delay, even though that's kind of generic. And in that, yield return new, wait 4 seconds, and however amount of time you think should be appropriate delay. Let's point at 0.35, and then the letter F because it's a decimal, and then this gets set back to N. There we go. Now that this has been created, we can now refer out to it. So again, in the if statement, this time it's start coroutine, parenthesis, and then the name of the routine we just created. It's called reset delay. That should do it. Now I'm thinking that the cube is really too big. So let's make this cube a little bit smaller. So even though it's a prefab, you can still make changes to it. So let's make that like 0.6, 0.6, 0.6. Okay, so it's also not rotating, but let's do it one step at a time. We'll add the rotations. So what's going to happen is you're going to have a steady stream of blocks being instantiated and just coming straight at the camera. Like I said, you're probably going to want them to rotate, so we'll add that next. There we go. Although, I kind of like it being right on the I kind of like the way that it looks being right on the harvester, whereas like some, like in No Man's Sky, you kind of see it flying out crazy and then pull in. I kind of like it like it's a tractor beam. So let's work with that. So let's go ahead and okay, so let's take the emerald material and we're just going to, since the emerald material is applied to this, we're going to apply it to the cube. So now the cubes will look just like the emerald. And let's see how that looks now. Here we go. And like I said, if you want to rotate them, the debris script, this is what's attached to the debris. And what we can do is in the update section, we'll just do and we're going to be rotating on, I believe, the z-axis. So 0, 0, 1. So it's just going to be rotating on the z-axis now. And the problem with this, though, this is really placeholder because since this happens once per frame, the higher the frame rate, the faster it's rotating, and that's really not what you want. You want it to be consistent across platforms. There we go. So now it has color, and it rotates, and I really like the way that looks. That looks great. So let's end it there for now. So not a whole lot of new functionality, more just kind of bells and whistles as far as a nice visual effect, giving the feedback to the user, to the player, that they are mining the resource.